name is Emilia Gonzalez-Avalos. I'm the Executive Director of Unidos, Minnesota. Welcome to our streets in Minneapolis. And look who came and is standing with us today. We have union leaders, faith leaders, small business owners, partner organizations, workers, pastors, shop owners, neighbors who took the morning to be here. We are here because Monarca, one of our projects, is one of the 18 organizations that was listed in the document released by the Department of Homeland Security calling us to be part of the conspiracy. And people are going to ask why we came to Target, and I want to answer that plainly. 5 years ago, court filings opened in this state and show that our own government did this year. Agents sat in our churches, they sat in our libraries, they sat in our training rooms in Richfield and wrote down what we thought about the Constitution. They took license plates outside a church in Roseville and built files of the families inside with their addresses, their children, and where they work. They pulled bank records of Minnesota unions and through the Federal Reserve wire system and asked that it stay secret forever. They made a slide entitled it The Conspiracy and put 18 Minnesota organizations on it, including a neighborhood bike shop. And federal agents walked into a Target store in Richfield without a warrant and detained 2 citizens who were at work, 2 people wearing that red shirt. Till this day, Target said nothing about it. And we came here because that silence still has answers available to it. What happened to a union bank record this year can happen to any record, in any building, on any street. Contracts hold and courts function and private records stay private because the rule of law runs the same way for everyone. Strip that away and every number on a balance sheet becomes a guess. No bottom line, listen Target, no bottom line can be met without a functioning democracy. We came here to say that out loud at the front door of the largest retailer headquarters in this state. And the third reason, this winter, hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans took care of each other. We share food. We walk children to school. The merchants of Lake Street kept their doors open when it cost them everything and keep them closed when it came to protect workers and neighbors. People stood outside in sub-zero weather with a phone and a copy of the Constitution. Our neighbors are the reason this state held. We live in every zip code where Target has a store, and many of us wear that shirt to work. So we came with an invitation. Sign the Business for Democracy pledge. Sit down with this coalition before early voting begins on September 15. 1 signature, 1 meeting. Venimos en paz y somos organizados. Somos vecinos, somos trabajadores y somos muchos. Minnesota will tell the story of this year for a long time, and we will try to build it with the rest of it alongside this company. So now next, you'll hear from my sister in the struggle, Bernie Berman, the director of the Minnesota AFL-CIO, the president of the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
Thank you, Amelia. As you heard, I'm Bernie Burnham. I'm the president of the Minnesota AFL-CIO, the federation of more than 1,000 local unions who collectively represent hundreds of thousands of workers all across the state of Minnesota. Last week, we learned with the rest of the country that federal investigators included our Minnesota AFL-CIO and several of our affiliated unions as part of an unhinged conspiracy theory targeting their political opponents. Instead of holding federal agents accountable, we're shooting and killing Renee Good and our AFGE union brother Alex Preddy, or addressing the dangerous and deadly conditions within immigration detention facilities. The Trump administration continues to weaponize our federal government to intimidate our unions, our communities, and anyone who peacefully opposes their radical authoritarian agenda. We and our affiliated unions are being targeted simply because of our state's labor movement stood in solidarity with our immigrant union members and neighbors when our state was under siege this past winter. Minnesotans and reasonable people across our country have rejected this administration's attempts to demonize immigrants. They know this and are now trying to demonize organizations like unions, community, and faith groups here with us today. They're trying to bring back McCarthyism to paint unions and organizations that advocate for workers and families as threats to our nation. These sort of scare tactics and red baiting didn't work in the 50s when Joseph McCarthy accused anyone he didn't like of being un-American, and it didn't work for Donald Trump and his friends. The labor movement was instrumental in creating America's middle class and would continue to advocate for all workers every single day. Attacks on labor are not new. Those with power nearly always push back when they face the kind of solidarity we saw in Minnesota last winter. We refuse to let this or any other attack distract us from continuing our work to improve the lives of working people, and we join in calling on Target to sign the Business for Democracy Pledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Minister Janae Banks Amari. I am the co-executive director of Isaiah and Faith in Minnesota. And I want to tell you a quick story. I am also a Christian minister, and in the scriptures there is a story about three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three Hebrew boys were confronted with a corrupt king. And that corrupt king told them that they needed to bow down to an idol, to a statue. They gave them an in-world edict. And those three Hebrew boys denied doing that. They refused to. And they said to that king, you can kill us, you can throw us into the fire, and we believe that our God will save us from that fire. But even if God doesn't, he still will not bow down. What we witnessed in Minnesota over January and February were Minnesotans saying that you can come after us, but what we are going to do is follow a much higher calling. We are going to do what we're supposed to do: protect our neighbors, welcome the stranger, love others as we are to love ourselves. And the edict to say that we just stand silently when those are killed, we just stand by when people are taken, when they are abducted from their homes, their school places, their places of work, we absolutely will not follow that. And that is what Minnesotans do. That's what every single Minnesotan should do, including our businesses and our corporations. Every single Minnesotan is beholden to one another. That is why we're here. We will continue to love one another, despite a weaponized government that says we should do otherwise, despite being attacked through surveillance, despite having remnants of what we saw through the civil rights movement that Americans overwhelmingly agree is a horrific event. That you would actually use your federal government to investigate people who are loving each other instead of those who are harming each other. That is why Minnesotans are here today. We are calling on every Minnesotan to lean in, to recognize that this surveillance cannot continue, to recognize that our democracy truly matters, and that every single corporation should stand with us. That also means signing a democracy pledge. That also means speaking out when you see injustice. That also means speaking out against a weaponized and corrupt government that tries to put their thumb on the people instead of lifting us all up so that we can all survive and thrive. Thank you.
I'm the Reverend Jennifer Crow. I'm proud to serve as Senior Minister of First Universalist Church of Minneapolis, one of the congregations and organizations that we now know with certainty was part of federal surveillance this past winter. We are here as people of faith. I'm joined by several of our church board members today because we know that caring for our neighbors and acting for justice is something that we do together. It is not something that can be done alone. When you join us on a Sunday morning, you will hear in our prayers that we say together a refrain. You are not alone, we are holding it together. That's what we did through this winter. That is what we are committed to doing always. That's what we invite you to join us in. These are not just words of a prayer, not just thoughts and prayers, but an action we need to make real. How are we holding it together? These shams of political investigations, these are just acts of retribution and intimidation. They are the work of a bully, not a builder. We are builders as people of faith and as Minnesotans. That is who we are and what we do. This unconstitutional abuse of power, this waste of taxpayer dollars, we will not stand for it. Our taxpayer dollars need to be used to build us up, not to surveil us. In times like this, silence is not an option. We can never find ourselves to be too scared to care for each other. That is our holy calling, to care for one another. We are everyday people who are doing everyday things. Things like sharing food with one another, offering comfort and connection to one another. These are things that you can do too. And so as people of faith, we are calling on other communities of faith, on our elected officials, on Minnesota businesses, to stand together, to say no to political surveillance and intimidation, to say yes to holding together as a community, to caring for one another, to building each other up, just as we did this winter, trusting that when we say yes, we are never alone. We are holding it together. Join us.
My name is Condemn. I'm president of Communications Workers of America, Local 7250. We represent telecom workers, video game workers, satellite TV workers, home security workers, web developers, and movie theater workers. Our union threw ourselves into the fight to defend our communities, to defend our brothers and sisters who are facing a racist terror campaign led by this federal government. Our members stood against ICE at the Whipple Federal Building. Our members contributed to the mutual aid funds that kept people in their homes and kept people fed when they were not safe to leave their homes. Our members participated in the rapid response networks that grew up all over the Twin Cities that involved tens of thousands of people who were ready to come out at a moment's notice to protect their neighbors, to protect their friends. And our members participated in the historic January 23rd Day of Truth and Freedom with no work, no school, and no shopping, that we believe now 300,000 or more Minnesotans participated in, and 100,000 people marched on these very streets, downtown Minneapolis, and 20 below zero. I want to let you know that this news of the infiltration and surveillance of our union, the gross invasion of our communities, organizations, and institutions does not intimidate us. We are more determined than ever to stand up to this repressive government. We are more determined than ever to stand in solidarity with all working class people. Our union believes and holds up the highest principle of an injury to one is an injury to all. That means that any part of our class that's under attack, we will be there standing with them. And I want to particularly highlight the case of the Minnesota 15. This is an effort to divide our movement, to try and tell people that there's some good protesters and some bad protesters. Let me tell you, the Minnesota 15 are some of the finest people I know. They are union members, they are teachers, they are carpenters, they're electricians, there are people that work in nursing homes, there are people that work in the service industry, there are people that work in the state parks. These are our people, these are our community, we have their backs. We know that this prosecution against them is a bogus attack on the entire movement, and we will stand with them throughout this whole ordeal. I just want to say real quick that Greg Bobino, the little Nazi that led the Operation Metro Surge here, said to federal prosecutors that his goal was to, quote, pacify this place. When he said that, he wasn't just talking about 15 people, he wasn't just talking about my union or Marcia's union or any other union. He was talking about the entire working class of this community. Yeah. And I just want to let him know, I want to let these corporations know, I want to let all of Minnesota know that we are not pacified and we will never be. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Vandewater. I am a community organizer and artist, and I am one of the Minnesota 15, but I like to think of myself as one of more than 30,000 people who stood up against ICE this winter. And this winter, armed men and women sent by the federal government converged on the Twin Cities to take our friends, family, and neighbors from us and send them to concentration camps. They were met with the peaceful resistance of tens of thousands of Minnesotans who refused to be subject to the Trump administration's fascist vision of America. The response to this peaceful resistance consisted of tear gas, less lethal munitions, physical assault and unlawful arrests from federal agents on the ground, and the characterization of Minnesotans as violent opportunists and terrorists by higher-level officials who can't wrap their heads around caring about anyone other than themselves. The ICE and VORTAC agents who murdered Renee Good and Alex Preddy have been hidden away and protected, while DHS turns its attention towards spying on union members, civil rights organizations, churches, and individuals who stood up for their community in whatever ways they were able. ICE has been awarded $240 billion in taxpayer money to kidnap someone's mom or dad on their way to work and stalk you while you're at the grocery store. Human Rights Watch referred to the occupation as a manufactured crisis. This administration has chosen to follow up that crisis with a manufactured conspiracy.
Oh, that's right.
Time and time again, we've seen them try to single out different groups, whether it's immigrants, trans people, and now the specter of Antifa, in an effort to erode essential rights and protections for all of us and advance an authoritarian agenda. The Minnesota 15 case and others like it must be understood as an attempt to criminalize dissent, to make an example out of some of us so that all of us hesitate to exercise our rights to protect one another. We will not allow this to happen. That we continue to see DHS utilized in Minnesota and beyond to enact violence on populations of black and brown people and engage in surveillance and repression of anyone who opposes this violence is more than sufficient grounds for its total dissolution. Drop the charges. Close the camps. Stop the deportations. Bring our community members back home.
Good morning and thank you all for being here. My name is Alec and I am one of the 15 who are indicted as part of the federal government's campaign of terror in the Twin Cities and across the state of Minnesota. I'm proud to be one of thousands of Minnesotans who stood up to exercise their constitutionally protected rights to resist this terrorist incursion. I'm also proud to be a union member of MAPE and to stand with my siblings in labor today to denounce these acts once again. The revelation of Operation Puppet Master exposes that while the government was targeting immigrant communities, tearing families apart, abducting children, and murdering folks in the street, they were also attempting to disrupt and dismantle one of the facets of Minnesota that makes us so unique, and that is our strong and unified labor movement. They are doing this simply because our connections, our community solidarity was so effective in repelling this terrorist incursion. Today I ask my siblings in labor to stand strong to maintain these connections we've worked so long to build, to continue to support our communities and resist these attacks on the working class. United we stand, divided we bang. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Philip Cryan. I'm Executive Vice President of SEIU Healthcare Minnesota in Iowa, a union of 55,000 healthcare workers. The members of our union, like so many other Minnesotans, faced extraordinary challenges and they rose to the occasion this winter. I remember a hospice nurse calling me, blocked from access to her dying patient by ICE. What should I do? How do I get to my patient as they're dying? I remember a healthcare provider calling me to say that there was someone in handcuffs that she was seeing who had just been the target of a violent abduction by agents of our federal government. How should she balance her responsibilities as a caregiver with her responsibilities as a citizen? I remember my friend Nazra, whose story we helped share in the Minnesota Reformer yesterday, a Somali American member, home care worker of our union, who after she realized that she was going to be safe after experiencing night after night of terror when Operation Metro Surge started, adopted her Latino neighbors, providing them with rent and food. Countless Minnesotans did this. Countless Minnesotans rose to the occasion and stood strong in the face of what the Trump administration tried to do to our communities. And the whole nation owes those Minnesotans a debt of gratitude.
That's right.
As somebody said already today, an injury to one is an injury to all. That is the principle that the American labor movement has always stood on. And today, we in Minnesota know that the new version of an injury to one is an injury to all, that all of us responded to this winter is, we keep us safe. We keep us safe. If they come after any of us, 15 of us or 1,500 of us, the hundreds of thousands of us who did what we needed to this winter to protect our communities, we will be there to support them.
Friends, neighbors, and fellow organizers, my name is Lacey and I'm proud to stand here today as a member of Sunrise Twin Cities. This act of mass surveillance by the government is meant to intimidate us. Our meetings were infiltrated, our financial reports were subpoenaed, and yet they didn't find anything. Because first and foremost, we are a non-violent movement. We organize, we protest, we tell the truth, and we care for one another. The fact that a non-violent group of young people is being treated as a threat to the government shows just how much power we hold when we stand together. They are threatened by the work we do, by our ability to bring people together, and by our courage to speak truth to power as we build the world we all deserve. The day the Minnesota 15 were indicted, I experienced a moment of terror when I questioned whether I was truly cut out for this work. Working at a summer day camp with children, I contemplated what would happen if law enforcement showed up and these kids were even further traumatized. Later that night, my team came together to process what had happened. We named something important. Fear is a normal part of fighting back, but we also named that this behavior by the government cannot be normalized. We cannot allow intimidation to define the limits of our movement, and we are not afraid. Even when fear is present, we are resolute. We are committed to fighting authoritarianism and electing leaders who will fight for us, not for corporations, not for billionaires, but for ordinary people in a livable future. Together we give each other the strength to do the instrumental work of standing up and fighting back. And I hope that everyone standing here today will find that strength in one another. Let us turn fear into solidarity and intimidation into action. We are here, we are together, and we're not going anywhere.
Hello, my name is Treasurer Thorson. I'm a special education teacher here in Minneapolis and an executive board member of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators 59. And I'm also one of the Minnesota 15 arrested for supposed conspiracy. I am so proud to be a member of MFE. This winter exemplified the power and strength of our union. We were able to come together in a moment of extreme hardship, despite the constant threat of state violence, and support our students, families, and colleagues in very real, tangible ways. We organized throughout the district to run food drives, held fundraisers for rent, delivered groceries to families, patrolled the streets outside our schools, walked students to and from their homes, all while continuing to show up to educate our students. All of these nonviolent acts of resistance are legally protected. We did nothing wrong, and yet our own government, threatened by our ability to organize and care for one another, infiltrated union halls, churches, and parks, anywhere folks met to talk about supporting and protecting our neighbors and our communities, watching and recording for months. I personally have had my phone records pulled with allegedly suspicious phone calls between myself and another MFE member that were flagged from last summer that had nothing to do with Metro Surge. A GoFundMe that I donated to, passed by one of my colleagues for their brother who was suddenly deported to a country he hadn't been to since a child, was flagged as evidence that I'm part of a conspiracy. How many folks here participated in a GoFundMe for a loved one, a colleague, a neighbor? I think everybody can think about a time when they showed up in these really innocuous protected acts. What illegal acts these are supposed to be evidence of is unclear to me. But the fact that we're being infiltrated within our unions is unfortunately nothing new. Our government feels so threatened by our ability to come together and use our protected First Amendment rights, our legal rights as unionists, that they feel they must surveil and disrupt. However, that to me is a signal that what we are doing is effective, impactful, and powerful. We engage in these protected acts of resistance to protect ourselves from the government, and they were offended that we dare do so. Keep showing up for one another, because whether you're union or not, we are working class folks doing the right thing for our neighbors, students, families, and colleagues. Local businesses like Target, Cargill, Best Buy, 3M, please take note, your silence is complicity. This bald-faced attempt to break our unity as Minnesotans cannot move us. Keep moving in love and solidarity. Thank you.
She said that I'm Marsha Howard, president of Minneapolis Federation of Educators, Local 59, the teacher chapter of Minneapolis's education union. Everyone here has pretty much said what there is to be said. Number one, about this investigation that was revealed only through a federal request for the information. They had to request the information about how we all became under investigation. I call this the land of 10,000 lakes and 100,000 unindicted co-conspirators. Because this right here is a I am Spartacus movement, right? Because we all stand together. It's the Minnesota 15, but we stand with them. You understand? We stand with them. My members are part of the Minnesota 15, and members of other unions, and members of other congregations, and members of other organizations, and members of other neighborhoods, and members of other families are part of the people that are indicted, and conversations that were recorded between partners, between brothers and sisters, between co-workers were recorded. Churches were infiltrated. Exercise groups were infiltrated. Observed. Union meetings were infiltrated. Snuck into. And they did this under the guise of what? Homeland Security? They came to our rallies and wrote down our license plate numbers. And then they asked us, what is there to hide? We were there, post-COVID, our mask off. We're proud to stand against authoritarianism. But what world are we now? Where we are standing against fascism, and we have to worry about folks within our midst writing down a list and coming back, spinning the block to start plucking people out of the crowd and say, that person is right to single out because their hair is dyed and they're wearing a septum ring and that person is trans. Oh, don't think we don't notice the pattern. Don't think we don't notice the pattern.
Yeah.
Don't think we don't notice the pattern of who they chose to pluck. And don't think we don't notice whose houses that they destroyed in their way of arresting them, who they gave a perk walk to, and who they allowed to get dressed before they allowed to take them out of their home.
Yeah.
Now, I happen to belong to the largest union in the United States. And it's fair to say that my members were treated with a little bit more care. But trying to split hairs into the indignity of being arrested by jackbooted thugs, that's not what we're doing right here. But I will say, we know what is going on right now. Because when you see that damn chart that I am proud to be on with MFE and all the other organizations that are on that flow chart. But then you ask yourself, how did you get on it? Campaign contributions? Really? By the way, you notice that they put you on there because of who your campaign contribution to a particular congressperson or a particular council member. That wasn't some crack shot, high-level investigation. That was literally looking at public information. Because I checked with my accountants, and they said, no, we never got a subpoena. No, that's something that anybody can look up, right? So this is a scare tactic. They wanted all my members to say, oh, firebrand president, what did you say on TikTok or Facebook? Did you get us in trouble? Did our members get us in trouble? And guess what my members said? Are we on the list? Well, kind of check to be on that list. Because you will never accuse us of our solidarity. We are proud to stand in solidarity. You will never accuse us of being with our neighbors. You will never make that an accusation. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to.
Again.
We are proud to stand together.
That's right.
We are proud to defend our values. And what the government of this regime didn't understand in December and January and February, and what they fail to understand now, is they don't know what they have done for us by what they are doing to us. They don't know what they are doing for us by what they are doing to us. Because what they are doing for us is allowing us to prove, to step into this solidarity, to hold not only each other accountable, but the other folks who claim to be our neighbors. Target Corps touts itself in its vision of being a good neighbor, do they not? Homegrown, hometown corporation. And every single corporation that claims to be here for the right reason are going to have to show and prove.
That's right.
They're going to have to live into it.
That's right.
Because trust and believe, they get them tax benefits from that, they get the custom from that. I am an educator. And educators spend $8 billion back to school on supplies.
No.
And between AFT calling for a boycott for back to school, between AFL-CIO extending that boycott, I'm telling you right now, the only thing that this corporation needs to do is make good.
That's right.
Make good for Alex Preddy.
Yeah, yeah.
For Renee Good, for all of us who have been in these streets, for the students, for our neighbors, for each other. Make good! Make good, Target!
Good luck.
Make good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.